Good afternoon. Sorry I'm late. Can we can call this meeting to order? Do we have any public speakers?
No.
No public speakers. Okay, thank you. Can I ask for a motion to approve the minutes, please?
Motion made.
Have a second? In favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Linda, do you want to speak to the work plan?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Two changes from this month. We have a full agenda, but two things that are being moved. There was RCM, LCM, which is the railroad's regular maintenance programs, were on the agenda, and we moved that to September. We're not quite ready to have the strategic discussion we wanted to have, so that's now scheduled for September. In addition, we were going to have the results of some risk reviews for some of the contracts for East Side Access today. Those risk reviews will be at the next quarterly meeting. Then there's some other housekeeping kinds of changes, but those are the big changes on the work plan.
Okay. Do you want me to? You and I talked about switching order. Do you want me to do so? Okay. So I'm going to switch the order a little bit just because last month we held off Fred doing a presentation on stations, and just to be able to close that, I want to give you the floor.
Okay. We're here following up our last update in October. We talked about our new strategy going forward in stations, station component, and the capital program, and how the maintenance initiatives are being tied into that. Here with me today I have Seymour Portes, our program officer for the stations program within the capital program management department, and Bronco Claver, the assistant chief officer in stations, who will do a joint presentation for you. Seymour will lead. Seymour.
Hi, good afternoon. Well, as Fred just mentioned, Becker and I will give you a brief update on the implementation of the 2010-2014 capital program. Bronco will talk about his strategy to preserve our capital investment in the station once a component is rehabbed. And I will update you on my plan to have the project design, award, and constructed timely. And as I had mentioned to you last October, my division never had 173 stations in design since the implementation of the capital program in the mid-'80s. My plan is to design and award 126 component projects, such as canopies, staircases, windscreen, and ventilators, and design 9 ADA key stations, 4 of which will be awarded at the end of the year, and also design 29 renewal station projects. Those are stations with more than 3 components rated 4 or worse, and 6 of them also plan to be awarded at the end of this year. My plan is to have, again, design and award all those projects timely for the 2010-2014 capital program.
Seymour, before you leave that,
Yes.
it doesn't really tell you which Utica and which Kingsbridge those are, so if you can tell us or maybe put it in later.
Okay, I will do so. The Utica is on the 8th Avenue line.
Okay.
And the Kingsbridge is on the number
4 or the D?
Number 4 line. Yes.
Okay.
All right. And again, my strategy is to eliminate all components rated 4 or worse that were identified in the 2007-2008 Station Structural Condition Survey. At the end of this program, 83% of our staircases, 67% of our platform, 86% of our windscreen, and 90% of our canopy should be defect-free by 2014 or soon thereafter. Since last October, when I was here, we completed 8 construction projects. They are 96th Street on the 7th Avenue line, J Street Metrotech Complex in Avenue U, Neck Road, and 86th Street in Brooklyn. And we completed some components project, the street stairs on the Jamaica line, and also the platform edges on the Myrtle Avenue line. 2 ADA key stations and 1 key stations are forecasted to be done by the end of this year. And that will bring the total of completed key stations to 76 and non-key stations to 18. And by midsummer, all the gap fillers that we have at Union Square will reach a state of good repair. And the current remaining construction projects that are on the board, all of them should be completed by 2012. Here are some before and after pictures of the track wall and platform edges at 86th Street station on the 4th Avenue line, Brooklyn. This is a clear evidence of how well the component approach is working, and the quick impact it is having on the station environment and our customers. And those are photos of the mezzanine at J Street and the transfer connector that we opened up to the public back in December. In partnership with Mr. Cleva Blanco in the Station Environment and Operation Division, the completed stations were added to the Maintenance Management Program. In summary, 43 of our stations are defect-free, 190 stations have less than 30% defects, and 234 stations have more than 30% defects that remain to be addressed. Blanco is going to update you right now on the maintenance aspect of the rehab components. Blanco.
The station in-house forces will supplement the capital program by performing work at the component stations, the stations that are going to receive one component or more. And they would perform different kind of repairs, painting, and intense cleaning. We plan to do that at 12 stations in 2011, and they are listed there, and another 16 in 2012. We will be including the stations that are completed in a maintenance program that will ensure that the stations are kept clean and in a state free of defects. We have started this program in the beginning of 2010, and we have started with 19 stations. And we have expanded that by 7 stations until now, which will include the stations that were recently rehabilitated, like J Street and 96th Street. And we plan to expand that to 42 stations by the end of 2011 as they are finished with the station rehabs and other work. And then we will expand that further into 60 stations by the end of 2012 based on the way the capital program is developed.
Questions? Thoughts? Mitch?
I see you have Times Square on the list of 2010. I don't get to as many stations as Andrew does. I'm sure nobody gets to as many stations as Andrew does. But one station I do get to often is Times Square. So I was wondering if you could give me an update on where that is in this context. Obviously, lots of people go through that station. It tends to be one of our more popular ones from a locational standpoint. So I was wondering if you could give me an update as to where that is in this context.
Times Square Station was one of our first stations that was included in this program, and it's been in the program since mid-2010, and it continues to be in that program.
Including the area by the shuttle? Because the area by the shuttle is obviously
includes the area by
the area that looks to me, from my eyes, as an area we have not gotten to yet. That's all I can
That's
say.
accurate. No, this is the area, this is effectively, while we're cleaning the area by the shuttle, is effectively every other part of the station.
Okay.
Right, because the shuttle is a multi-$100 million project that has never been budgeted to do. What Bronco's doing is not going to change that.
Right. But I mean, the area, I mean, obviously I go from the 1, 2, and 3 up the stairs and walk to the shuttle. That area seems to me to be less nice, for lack of a better term, than some of the other areas when I come in the other way. And so I was wondering how that was in relation to bringing that up to at least the standard of the other parts of the station.
Well, that would require to rehab and bring the shuttle area into a state of repair as the rest of the station would require a significant capital investment. What we are doing there now, we're cleaning it and trying to control the leaks and doing what we can, but it's not going to look like the other station, the rest of the station or the complex until there is some significant investment there.
Okay. Okay.
What you're describing is
at
the
least that-
Phase 3 piece, which is still out there, and that would actually require us, our plan is to reconfigure the shuttle tracks, the curved
Right.
platforms, and straighten them out. And that's why what you're describing is really that demarcation line
Right.
where the limits of the scope for the Phase 3 would begin.
Okay.
And that's why there hasn't been any significant investment in
Especially in the roof area and everything like that, because...
and the entranceway
on the
going north.
entranceways,
That's
right.
correct.
Right, okay. Well, at least I knew there's a reason.
Doreen?
Thanks. Yeah, just a couple of questions. Seymour, in this, I think it's the second slide, out of those component projects, the 126 projects, I'm assuming all of those are funded in the capital plan in the 2010-14. We have money to do all of that?
Yes, we do.
Set aside, okay. There's a check mark under master plan and in design. Can you give me a sense of the 126, how many are in master plan and how many are in design?
Actually, most of our stations are in scope, and we are getting the final estimate to complete the master plan. I would say at this time we have completed 75 or about 75 master plan, and the rest are yet to be done. And we started some construction work on the Eastern Parkway line. We just awarded the platform edges at Hoyt, Bergen, and Franklin. And we are designing, and as those projects are completed, we will continue awarding them.
Thank you.
You have platform work, you have component work also in construction up the Broadway line as well, right?
Yes.
Those are in the 2009, the
Okay.
earlier capital program.
Okay.
And then on the next slide,
Yes.
let's just talk about platform edges.
Yes.
We have 67% that are or will be defect-free. The balance is not defect-free, which sounds a little scary, but you're saying that these are on a scale of 1 to 5 at a 3 or lower?
Yes.
And tell me, if it's a 5, you jump on it very quickly, but what if it's a 4? How long will it take you to get to none to 4?
What we have, as Fred and Craig discussed last year in the presentation of the components, a lot of the in station in subway they call them defects A and C, and those are, if we have those type of defects, the A defects are addressed within 24 hours, and the C defects are addressed maybe within
60 days.
60 days.
60 days.
But
Okay.
in none of our platform edges right now have a condition that request us to go the defect A that would be a tripping hazard of yes. But those are structural defects that are the underneath of the platform that we have to go and do the structural repair of the platform overhang. But otherwise, our customers are safe to use the station.
Thank you.
Sure.
Seymour, how often is every piece of this inspected? So, like you say, we jump on it quickly, but how often are the inspections of every platform edge or stairway or all of that?
On the capital program, yes. Okay.
Each station is inspected at least once every 3 days.
So all of these aspects we're talking about is inspected once every 3 days.
Yes.
That's great. Terrific. Thank you.
To the last slide, I mean, I think for my part, I think the most important part of this presentation today is actually seeing Seymour and Bronco here together. And I think Mark made this point in an earlier meeting, that we're kidding ourselves if we do capital investment and we don't actually have a program to be able to maintain this investment. And so if the water leaks and other things start to happen immediately after do it, what's the point of doing some of the other stuff that we were doing before? And I think it's been a long-standing frustration for the organization about how to combine this and how to be able to protect these investments. We figured it out in our car fleets, but we didn't figure it out in our stations. And that's the reality of the situation. We never figured it out in our stations. When we began this discussion last year, we realized start small, get something going, feel comfortable with it, and we chose 19. Was that the number we had?
Yeah.
We had last year to be able to do this. And I'm actually very impressed about the fact that we're extending it, we're expanding it. We'd all like it to be 468, but we have to have a path of being able to get there to be able to deal with the pieces that are there. We equally have to recognize, and I think as valid as Mitch's point is, we have to recognize that we are very much essentially coming on behind the capital investments. So if the capital investments are not going to be made for some number of years, this will inevitably follow behind it. It can't replace doing that. There's simply no way to be able to do that. But I actually think a lot of the success of our station program is whether or not we feel that this is going to be successful. Because if it's not, then we're continually losing the game. We know we lost the game on the stations that were done in the early 80s. The modernizations weren't good. They don't look good right now. Much worse than going through Times Square is going through the 7th Avenue line on Penn Station and seeing the ceiling falling down and all the other things that are going on. We've lost the game on that. And this is really where it happens. And if we can make this connection, and if Bronco can come in and do some of the things on top of some of the work that Seymour is doing on the component program and do some pieces like that, we have the chance of actually creating a core of stations that we can look at now and feel we did the capital investment and we maintained them in that thing. And this is what I think we need to continue to be watching and following and reporting on, both in this committee because of the way the relationship, and also obviously in the transit discussion as well. And no, it's not perfect yet. I mean, I think, but it's getting into a direction that I'm actually very, very impressed by what people have been able to do.
We had several stations with severe water damage after major multi-million-dollar renovations. Nevin Street comes to mind.
South Ferry.
South Ferry's. So, in your inspections, if you discover water infiltration and it's from a third party, like an apartment building or a restaurant or something, are you then empowered to contact those folks and take care of that problem?
Yes, we definitely need to get in touch with them and try to resolve the issue by having them shut up the water. That would be the easy solution. Often it's different type of water intrusion that comes from groundwater or from the street. And there we need to do chemical grouting or install drip pans to control the leak.
But again, I think the water situation we should take in two parts. One is, are we confident when we finish our capital projects that we've dealt with the water conditions as we know them now? South Ferry is an example where we're not, where we lost that at the time we did the capital project. This discussion Fred and I have been having about various projects that are underway right now, and can we declare a project finished if it's dripping at the day we're declaring it finished. But even having said that, it will be a continuing fight, and I think the point that gets made about this is, even if there's a day in time and you look at this and say, no, it's not dripping and it just rained and it's not coming in, that doesn't tell you that a week later you're not going to be back in this battle. And I think we will always be in this battle. And it's not, by the way, it is not just before Mark says something, it's not just restaurants and it's not just apartment buildings, but it's also the city. Because it has to do with the sewer mains and the degree to which how we're able to maintain that.
I have a major question, which is, do we still use galvanized sheet metal for the drip pans?
Yes.
It's a lovely idea, but after they've been there for a while, they rust out, as you've probably noticed. Could we figure out something that actually didn't disintegrate over time? Because after you've made the effort to put in this elaborate sort of Rube Goldberg to keep the water off, which is fine, I mean, it's very depressing when that too has disintegrated. And a waste.
We are constantly looking at options, and we will continue to. And in these stations that we are keeping track of, particularly the stations that are finished with the rehabs have been completed, we would make sure that if the pan does deteriorate, then we would have to replace it. Stainless steel is very expensive.
Yeah, but is
And-
there some kind of plastic
and
or
plastic is-
coating or
Plastic
something-
is not allowed because of its hazards if it goes on fire. We're not allowed to use plastic in our system. So
We use plastic pipes. We use those white PVC things coming down, don't we?
those are not allowed.
Then, then I've never seen one. Oh.
On that note, might I suggest that we say thank you and move on to the next topic?
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to spin us back to the beginning of the agenda, if I can. Really, for what is a two-part discussion. One, the update as of the end of the year on MWBE performance and how we did during this year, but also I think a very important discussion on the small business mentoring program. So we'll take that in two parts. Michael?
Thanks, Jay. If you look at the screen and look at the left-hand top where the goals are associated with our Fed goals and our state goals, and in the right-hand column there's the actual goals that we achieved last year. And we are off target with the exception of the 5% that were awarded to WBE firms. The reason the top that there's a variance is because the type of work that we awarded last year, there were a finite few of DBE firms who specialize in the type of work that was awarded. And we need to do a more effective job. And some of the issues are that the goals needed to be downwardly adjusted. And on the large contracts, the issue there is that if a firm is certified as a DBE, the principal's net worth can't exceed $0.75 million. And the issue there is that how many firms can go out and get bonding and work on our mega projects in this city? The challenge is that it is hard to create and manage a program from Washington as a one-size-fit-all program. It's a lot different doing business in Manhattan, Kansas, than it is doing work in this big city because of our mega projects. The primes, we must work with our primes to do a more effective job of finding firms who they are comfortable with working with. Next page, please. Some of the things that we've been doing to mitigate this is that we wrote the FTA, and the FTA they basically increase the net worth cap to $1.3 million. It's a step, but it's still not there. We have been also working on our state projects and our mentor program. And we are also currently talking to the FTA about creating a mentor program for our FTA-funded projects. And if that happens, it'll go a very, very, very long way. Also, our state goals. The state is looking to replicate our program to have a statewide mentoring program based upon our model. And that's the recommendations that's going to be a given from the task force. Also, we must do a more effective job of getting MB firms and DB firms into the various trade unions. And I think that the paradigm here must shift. I don't think that the onus should be on us to go out and find subcontractors to do work for our prime contractors. The prime contractors must do a more effective and better job of going out into the marketplace, hiring people who can go out, flush out, and bring firms in who they can, who they have an actual comfort level with working with. We are basically reaching out, and we vowed that we were going to reach out to every county that we service. As a matter of fact, we went up to Sullivan County on yesterday, right? There were 4 firms that we drove 2 hours to see to get those 4 firms involved in our program. And so we must do a more effective, better job in the outreach in these upstate counties. We have been also working with ACE to basically involve our office into the final evaluation process, because historically in ACE, there was one question, and that question said, did the prime contractor submit their their goals, their plan every month? And if the answer was in fact yes, they got a passing grade, regardless of how they did with respect to the utilization of our firms. So that's going to change, and our grading is going to be how each firm did with respect to including these firms in their projects. Also, we have a new software program that's going to go live soon, where we are going to be able to monitor and track our all of the MWDB firms who are on all of our projects in a real-time basis. Right?
You going on to the mentoring program?
Yeah.
So before we do that, I Susan, I don't know if there, in particular, from any perspective you bring or any other perspective, we want to stop on the goals piece for a second before we go into the mentoring piece.
I was just going to ask a question regard to obviously we have a lot of big projects. And I don't know the answer to this question, which is why I'll ask the question. When we go out and put out an RFP to get bidders back, whether it's on one of Mike's contracts, whatever it happens to be, the issue of the subcontractors, which clearly is an issue in this discussion, and is the place where you're going to find more of the MBE, WBEs, because they tend not to be as large a company, I would assume, okay? Do we require the general contractor who's bidding on the project to list the subs they're going to use before we accept the bid? Or do we award the bid, then say you now got to go out and find 10% and go do what you have to do? Where do we do it in the process?
Yes, after the contract is awarded, the prime contractor has 10 days in which to submit a plan that's going to list the
See, I think we should do it beforehand. I think we should make the listing of the subcontractors and meeting of the MBE and WBE goals part of the selection process. And say to them, here's the contract, here's your low bid, you tell us which subs you're going to use now as part of that contract, what goal you're going to be able to meet, because I assume in our contracts we have goals, okay, and have them do it beforehand, not afterward. I think we would have more control over the situation, and it might even give them a better opportunity to find people to do it with. Just a thought.
Mitch, I think...
That's assuming there are, but you'd know better if there were beforehand than you would afterward.
So here's what happens today. When a contractor puts a bid together,
right,
and even with our 10 days, he has difficulty getting some of the firms to bid on the work. But more importantly, prior to a bid, any available MWDBE doesn't want to give a price to one contractor, because he doesn't think he's going to get the job. And so they often don't get prices, so they can't often lock in the folks. So there's a constraint there that if we held them accountable for it, it's almost like they can't do it. It's catch-22. We would certainly delay the bids and things like that. So accelerating the process is certainly a thought, somewhere between the two.
Well, because obviously by the goal, the difference between the goal and the achievement, we're not there yet. There is a gap.
Can I add something?
in that regard.
I'm speaking both as having been a large contractor and having been a WBE. The point is well taken. A small business has an opportunity to pair with with whoever gets the job.
Right.
And the amount of work that goes into knowing that they've got the job and they would be on that project, they're willing to put out that extra effort in that 10-day time. But they're not so willing to, first of all, sometimes the prime wants to have the small business as a, what do you call it? No, as a sole source.
Exclusive?
Nobody wants to do that. And to some extent, that's because there are not so many small businesses available. If there were a huge number of them, it would be easier to get the kind of participation you're proposing. from what I've seen has happened, our bigger problem is being sure that what we get from the prime contractors in their monthly reports defines the actual use of the people that they say they're going to use, and that we are able to track that better. That's what I'm happy to see is being tightened, and something I think will make a big impact, because if the prime doesn't think there's any problem with, well, I gave it my best and I didn't work, then they don't give their best.
Or, if I recall my newspaper clips, somebody deliberately doesn't do it.
That's happened in the
fouls
past.
the system.
It shouldn't happen going forward.
Right, and if I remember my newspaper clips, which is what happened, and that's an issue, that's a secondary issue with regard to enforcement of whatever rules we have put out there.
You know, but that's not to underplay the importance of getting that net worth cap raised. When you're doing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business and you're a prime contractor and you can't use anybody whose business is more than 1.3 million, you end up with a plethora of small businesses that you're trying to control. That makes it very, very hard on the prime contractor, very hard on the minority businesses. And that's a big issue. Another issue is the difficulty of small businesses getting bonding, which we're also working on.
Right.
And if these major hurdles could be satisfied, I think we would have a lot more small business participation. Now, some of the work we do, like tunnel boring, you're not going to find a DBE, a MBE, or any kind of small business able to do that. So I think that the important thing that Michael's also telling us is that the adjusted goal in some cases is quite valid. This is not to be an excuse, and I think we all know that, but there are certain contracts that so far we haven't figured out a way to do it. The mentoring program was specifically designed to help us bring small businesses into the fold so that they can do our kind of work.
Right.
And it's,
Well, we're going to speak to
it'll
that.
be three years before we know, but
Right.
you'll hear a good story so far.
Okay.
Ron's going to speak to that in a second. I think the point I'd make about this is we've actually made a lot of progress this year, and it's clear we have a long way to go. And the state is interested in raising the MWBE goals. The governor has announced his desire to do that. But the real achievement of it, I think, is going to come to understand what are the constraints to being able to do it. If the constraint is process, we need to deal with that. If the constraint is some of the levels and some of the things that are going on, we need to be able to deal with that. And I think in that context, I think that's the way to think about the mentoring program. Because the mentoring program was an effort in one slice of this of being able to try to deal with some of the constraints that are there, both the knowledge constraints, the bonding constraints, the access to capital constraints, and the payment constraints. And I think that's what Ron's going to speak to. But it remains our challenge to break down those constraints. Your floor.
Thank you. So when we announced the legislation at that first CPOC back last year, Jay said, "Okay, the good news is we have the legislation. The bad is now we have to perform." So we took that on. We have, as you know, the first year legislation requires us to commit at least $10 million. I want to compare that to the early years of the School Construction Authority, where I think they commit around $5 or $6 million.
Yeah, 5 or 6 million.
Yeah. So we committed to $10 million as a start, and then to grow from there. We're on target to exceed the $10 million by the first year, which will be July 14th is the end of the first year. Okay, we're on target, and I'll show you a little more about it. Year two, we're putting together, because we don't end at the first year, we need a continuous plan. The agents have been working together with us, and we've put together a year two commitment plan to put projects in the pipeline so we can continue the program not only at the same level, but a 50% increase. We challenged the agencies to do it. They met the challenge. Okay? So therefore, by the end of the second year, we're forecasting to exceed $25 million worth of contracts. Okay, next, please. You'll see here the data in your CPOC book is as of March 31st. You'll see just 3 weeks later, the numbers change dramatically. So from awarded projects of $4.5 million as of March 31st, we're now at 6.3 as of yesterday, actually. We have 5 projects currently in the bid and award phase. If these projects come in at the estimate, we hope they'll be lower, but if they come at the estimate, we will achieve our $10 million at this cycle. However, in this quarter, we still have projects in the plan to complete before July 14th, to commit before July 14th, of another $4.4 million. So that's our contingency, the $4.4 million for the first year to satisfy the legislative requirements. So what did we do? We didn't want a program. We wanted a program to be the best program around. We basically recognized that the mentor CM, we hired TDX, was on a critical path, and it was vitally important we get them on board quickly so we could pre-qualify bidders and have a pool of people to give these projects to that the agencies worked long and hard to prepare. We basically worked with teams of lawyers, with procurement folks, engineering folks, and we spent literally thousands of hours to prepare the documents that we needed and the process that we needed to get buy-in so that everyone was satisfied that we had the right process in place, the right goals in place. We established those goals based on best practices. We said, for example, okay, well, a submittal takes 20 days or 30 days in our contracts, 30 days. That's not good enough. Submittal could hurt the critical path, could hurt the payments of the small guys. We're going to set a submittal target for 10 days. So we set goals. And at first we thought we were very, very tight. But it turns out that when we set optimistic goals, we found out we could even do better, as you'll see. We instituted controls for monitoring and tracking. We have continuous monitoring tracking. We meet weekly and we look at variances. We just look at variances and look at risks. Each of these projects, no matter how small they are, what are the risks? What are the variances? We set a goal of 10 days. What submittal is that? Submittal is 11 days. Why? Why is it that submittal 11 days? So we monitor that actively. We conduct outreach. Michael will talk a little more about outreach. It's critical to keep our pool of contractors, especially as we increase the number of bids in a month. We're bidding 8 bidders on a project. We can run out of contractors pretty quickly. So we need to keep that outreach effort going. And then finally, we believe that two-way communication is essential for this project. So not only everyone knows their goal, but it's free to communicate in every direction. Give you an example. Yesterday, I had not yesterday, within the last week, I had a telex from, or an email, telex, an email from, an email from Transit, Eskenazi in procurement, saying to me, hey, where's that approval letter that you guys owe us? And, we had 2 days to do it, and he was waiting for it. And it was wonderful. They're expediting us, and we're expediting them. And my program manager is on vacation overseas, and he got an email from him last week reminding me that I had to follow up on something, so it didn't fall in the cracks. So communication flows always. Okay, what are the results? The results, basically, as you can see here, are that we're very proud of the first one, the contract terms and conditions. We have a unified and simplified set of terms and conditions, right? We can say that even the School Construction Authority doesn't have that, right? We have our own. We have multi-agencies. We've had many discussions, and we're down to a unified, simplified set of conditions that is in a digestible form for the contractors to work on that meets all our requirements. We set goals for award process. I said here of 10 days. We've actually awarded projects in 4 days from the bid opening, right? And 10 is the goal without an issue. And 7 is probably pretty much the norm. Payment processes. Despite all the bad press about BSC recently, I can say that they are a partner in prompt payment. We've had 3 requisitions submitted, only 3. The first one we paid in 3 days, and the next 2 we paid in 5 days, from the time they submitted a completed requisition. And our goal there, as you see, was is 10 days. So we're not trying to brag too much because it was just a start. It's only 3. The challenge is to keep it up, and we will work hard to do that. And one more, Mike. So the last piece here is transparency and accountability. You know, Reverend DeGraff came up and talked at one of the CPOC meetings and challenged us. You know, make sure your program is transparent, right? Okay. So to that end, we actually have put on the website mta.info, and if you want to look at, it's under the Doing Business with Us tab. We have the application, pre-qual application process, the package process, the application, the whole thing. We list the 3 documents that are in the book, the projects that have been awarded to date, the projects in the bid and award phase, and the projects coming up in the next quarter. And we actually list all the approved contractors that are in our program. So Michael will tell you how many we have, but they're in there, so they can facilitate communication among themselves and with others. And then we have an intranet posting, things we don't want to put outside, but we need internally to work together. We can access. For example, what is the latest version of the award procedure, right? We want central control. We control it. We put it on the intranet. It's available to everybody at the MTA to see. And it's a great training document, a good communication document, and certainly a reference document. So I'd like to turn it over to my partner from here on out.
Thanks, Ron. And Ron is correct. Essentially, one of the goals here was to make sure that this program was in fact transparent. And a funny thing is happening now. All of the firms who have in fact been admitted to the program, they are online right now. So our large contractors are now looking at this site and asking these firms to give them quotes on subcontract work. So it's great. Next page, please. I am happy to say also that our first loan program will be issued next week. One of the challenges that small firms have is getting capital in order to finish their work, in order their long lead items and what have you. Basically, there's been 18 bids thus far and 144 bidding opportunities for firms. Also, as of this morning, we have qualified our 104th firm in the program this morning. And as a promise to you, our map, we promise that we are going to get to every county that we service in this program. Our goal is to, if there's going to be 8 bidders on each project, we want to put 8 bidders from that county on each project. Thank you.
We've heard numerous proposals for expansion of the MTA today, but I think we'll stick to the 12 county region for the moment. Questions, comments? Go ahead.
You can see how much work these 2 gentlemen put into this, and it took a phenomenal amount of preparatory work, background work, and consensus building. But I also think that I have to thank the agency presidents and the agency staffs. A lot of the success of this depends on enthusiastic acceptance from the agencies, and it's there, and I'm very pleased to see that, because that's what's making it really work well. So my thanks to them and my thanks to the agencies, and you can see the success that we've already had to begin with.
Thank you. I think that's said very, very well. I think this is something we should be proud of in the way our whole organization has responded to doing it, and I think replication as a complement to the extent it is now being looked to be replicated on a statewide basis and potentially on a national basis. I think
and citywide also, as of
yesterday.
yesterday.
So I mean, I think we are seeing that come forth in the way that is happening. I think that's very, very positive. And I think the community of potential contractors is very aware of how aggressively the MTA has worked to do that. You do hear this over and over again, and I think that's great. Obviously, I think the other point that Ron and Michael are making is that we can't rest where we are. This is a program that we know we started out with one goal. We have to continue it. We have to expand it. And hopefully, actually, people move out of our small business mentoring program and into our other programs in which they are really able to help us drive up the goals and get to some of the issues that we were talking about as well. And we won't know that for a while. And I'm sure there'll be some hiccups along the way because there always are. But a credit to everybody who's been doing this. Thank you. Major capital projects, I believe, is our last item of the day for this committee. Michael.
Yes, indeed. Let me start with the Fulton Street Center. The project is overall on schedule. We're trending below budget. And although we had a few hiccups, the installation of a tower crane due to high winds that delayed us about 3 weeks in putting it up. The structural steel erection has begun, and we believe that right now the contractor is working extra time to try to make up whatever delays were there, so that will be most probably on time. The first escalator at the 405 underpass is the delivery, the first at the complex, and we finished the beginning of the installation. Actually, I presented that today at the committee of on the east mezzanine of the tiling system, and we expect to receive, in addition to that, to start the AC mezzanine east escalator as well. So that's something that is going on. The next actually shows you the total, in effect, cost as we are incurring it, and what percentage vis-a-vis our plan. And on both fronts, we are ahead of the plan. That means we really we are ahead in terms of the timing as well at this point. Looking at the project schedule contingency, the schedule contingency right now is about 146 days. It is basically way ahead of the remaining work in terms of percentages, and so is the budget contingency. So we are actually, I wish all my projects will do like that, but this is really doing well. Here are a few of the critical milestones. Opening of 135th William Street entrance. We actually, we're going to miss it by a couple of months. We made a conscious decision not to pay additional time. It doesn't affect the overall completion, so we made the decision to save the money and delay the opening by a couple of months. Regarding the we have an additional potential issue to the service charges to enable 4-5 station platform to work. We had actually GOs that were planned for this year. They have been delayed. 5 of them will be delayed for next year. That will incur a 43-day delay. Again, this is not a delay to the project, but just that specific thing. So we believe that this is not an issue, and there is no mitigation possible to that. So we accept it as, and we're moving on. We are looking continuously at the customer impacts during the construction, and we are trying to manage this impact to minimize the inconvenience to our customers. And we have a phased work plan in order to do that, and we are working on New York City Transit continuously to address that. We actually built some temporary passageway that will protect passengers. So things are moving actually in the right direction. When we look at the dates committed, we expect with the only one right now is the Williams Street entrance that will be 2 months delayed. We expect the southbound platform, Portland, will be September 9/11, 2011 for the 10-year remembrance. And we also have the the AC 245, and this is the connection, will be done by August this year. Everything else stays on track.
The IEC agrees with the project that they'll meet the completion date of June 2014. However, we recognize that there is a 1-month reduction in float to a total of 4 months, and this is, as Michael said, due to the late start and low production steel erection. The project believes that they'll recover this time by the completion of the steel erection, which is in September. The IEC agrees with the project's reported budget and contingency. And regarding the critical issues, in addition to the issues mentioned, IEC is also concerned with the ongoing communication design changes. This is primarily due to technology of several communication subsystems, which is a change from the analog to an IP database network. And also another change that is affecting this project is the underlying data communications of infrastructure from ATM to Metro Ethernet, and this transition has been ongoing since the original contract and is still not complete. So we see this as a potential reduction to contingency, and some contracts have been affected by this, but the overall completion of the project completion date still remains. IEC is concerned with this issue because we believe that it could affect the other mega projects in their systems contract, and we recommend that lessons learned from Fulton Street be applied in a timely manner.
I'll stop here for a second. Just anything on Fulton Street? 2nd Avenue, Michael?
2nd Avenue, again, we're on schedule at this time to meet the December 2016 revenue service date, and we are on budget. We have done revised cost estimate, and they're being validated, and in fact, we're showing some hard and soft cost increases, but maintaining the project well within the budget. The progress, we in effect completed the West Tunnel to 65th Street. East Tunnel is underway. We passed the ground freezing, and we're now digging up around 89th Street. Actually, yeah, around 89th Street. The fragile buildings at the 86th Street site, we in fact completed the survey. We have one building that we have yet to be able to get into. Eventually we got the court order to open it, and once we did that, we found that we couldn't get in. It's a lot of stuff in there that people actually cannot get in, and we're now working with city agencies to find a way. There's probably a bureaucratic mechanism to be able to access the building, and we'll find that probably in the next week or two as to how we're going to be able to get in there. At the moment, it doesn't affect us, so there was not it happened to be one of those things. We have advertised the system contract and held pre-proposal conferences, and that's the progress. As far as the 90-day look ahead, and I'll discuss that later on, the award of 86th Street Station cavern contract, although we had a bid opening at the beginning of February, we expected to award it by April 19th. It's still in procurement. We're not able to do that for a variety of technical reasons at this point, and at this point I would like to hold back discussing it because it's in procurement. We expect to, in the next 90 days, to receive the proposals, because this is an RFP for the system contract, and we complete in the next 90 days, we probably be by 86th Street or beyond that, depending on, again, the geotechnical situation. And we expect to start the slurry walls at 96th Street, and we'll complete the mucking system that some of you have seen today at the transit meeting. That is kind of an innovative thing to mitigate a lot of the impacts in the community. Let us move to the next thing. This is really the project cost and how we performed in the last quarter. And I'm going to actually be very, very clear on this, that we have, in effect, at this point, the percentage is pretty much what we had before. We are staying the course in terms of how we are performing here, and in fact, the third-party work has increased from last report. So we're pretty happy with the way right now things are moving along. The next one is really the contingency, the schedule and cost contingency that we have, and we have reduced the schedule contingency by about 7 days from the last report, but we are still well above our remaining remaining work that we need to do, as well as the contingency, the budgetary contingency. We have again reduced the amount by $31 million, but just to point out that when we'll award the 86th Street, we'll then have a big windfall there that will increase our contingency significantly. We, in effect, do not take any up in contingency once we have a bid until we award. So that's sometimes you'll see that discrepancy is going to be up and down. Let us go over the critical milestones and issues. At this point, litigation at 72nd Street Station. We are waiting the court decision. Everything was done. Now we are waiting for a judge to tell us what to do. And we hope that we'll be successful. If not, we have a path forward, but that's kind of more convoluted for that matter. Fragile buildings, again, we have completed the work, and in effect, I've actually, some of you have heard it already, that 1802, that is one building away from 93rd Street and 2nd Avenue, next to one of our ancillary facility. We have had a temporary relocation of 6 residents. These are month-to-month residents that live in a building that has about 15 units, and they will be out for a couple of months, and that allow us to do the work without having to actually bring in boilers and all kind of other equipment to keep everyone happy during this transition. So it was more cost-effective to do it that way. Again, at the 72nd Street, regarding the fragile buildings, we are actually proactively has worked with the ahead of the contractor to determine which buildings need to be fixed when, and that's progressing accordingly. Again, we have a litigation at 86th Street, and there is a date that has changed. Apparently, lawyers on both sides, ours as well as the plaintiff, have agreed for another month's delay in order to achieve a settlement. The judge actually directed us to talk to each other and come up with a settlement. We'll have to see where it's going to land. Right now, we're not clear. At 96th Street, there is an issue actually that has been identified with the ECS as well as the Con Ed ducts. They have to be relocated to allow for the sewer to be relocated as well, and particularly the Con Ed issue has been flagged. I just want to mention that we have the exact same thing at 86th Street, that we put new banks of ducts, and actually they have to reconnect the wires, and the Con Ed is doing it at the same time at 86 and 96 over a period of 8 weekends, and we expect that to go well. So we have no reason for that not to be the case. That's it.
We've looked at the schedule for the project in detail and agree with the contingency that MTA Capital has posted and find it consistent with the remaining work of the project. We do have a concern that the sum total of the schedule risks from the issues that Capital has just identified in the report, plus 2 others that we've picked up as significant, are going to force the project to consider a noticeable reduction in their schedule contingency within the next 3 to 4 months. The project's identified mitigation opportunities for these issues. We're actually working with them on a couple of them, but at the present time, that certainly is a potential. Regarding the budget, project is on budget. We believe the cost contingency now at about $300 million should be reduced by $20 million to reflect New York City Transit's latest estimate of their support for a force account to the project. The project is discussing that with Transit, hasn't accepted it, and I guess we'll see when those discussions are finished where that number is going to end up. The other issue, 86th Street, has been mentioned by the President in his report.
Can I ask a question regarding the litigation? Not specific litigation, but the litigation in general.
Right.
Under some of the laws of the state of New York, plaintiffs in this type of situation are required to post a bond in case they lose, because in reality there are no. Let's assume for the moment we win.
Right.
Okay. Let's assume for the moment we win. What are our damages? We wasted X amount of time. Okay. So in reality, we don't get anything other than the ability to keep going while we have wasted, I'll strike the word wasted, while the time schedule has been delayed.
Right.
Under certain laws of the state, plaintiffs are required to post a bond for that and to damages to the authority, not just our authority, but any entity in regard to that. Have we done anything with regard to that in that regard? Because otherwise, it doesn't matter to them, but it matters to us.
Check on it. I know that one lawsuit is in the federal court,
which is even better.
I'm
my understanding.
This is one part.
So we should check. We should check.
We should check on it because
we'll check.
Because
it'll be great.
If we win, the schedule gets changed. If we lose, the schedule gets changed. So in reality, we don't win. We just
Mitch,
continue.
I'm with you. If you're right, it will be great.
That would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There is, of course, the proposal for express service.
I understand that.
Yes. Which may be accommodated if we can't get it any other way.
That's true.
Okay.
Non-stop.
East side access. I'm sorry. I apologize, Doreen. I didn't see it.
Mark, okay, your mic was on. I think the IEC's comments are pretty sobering on schedule and budget contingency, especially when you look at this project. We won't look at it compared to East Side Access because it's smelling like a rose compared to East Side Access in those areas, but certainly Fulton Street, when you look at the number of days of contingency versus the complexity and the cost of this project, it's very sobering whether this will end up on budget and on time with the relatively...
Let me start by commenting on budget. I am actually at this point in disagreement with the IEC, but that's for me to prove it later on. I think that we have enough money and enough contingency to finish this project properly and within budget. This project is compared with the Fulton Transit is not in the same situation because we have many more contracts that we need to award before we can actually kind of be over the hump, so to speak. So there is a way to go on Second Avenue, but I believe that in terms of the amount of money that we have, it's quite significant. Regarding schedule, the schedule, it is at this point okay. There are risks that we are incurring, and the risks are, many of them, not necessarily something that we totally control. We do not control lawsuits that may impede us in doing certain things. We are now in procurement that's an issue that we need to solve. So these are issues that may impact in the future, may eat into our contingency, okay? In fact, on the 86th Street is day for day eating in the contingency. Every day after April 19th, it's less a day in contingency that we have. So that's worrisome. And we are very serious and looking at it in a very serious manner. And at this point, I cannot tell you more than that. I feel pretty good about Second Avenue. I think that from a budgetary point of view, we're doing well. If you would consider the fact that when we'll be able to award 86th Street, we could increase our contingency by $100 million. So that gives you an indication of where we stand. So we always anticipate, and we're not really that worried about it, but when you look at the IEC's comments, they anticipate the fact that we may have additional costs 6 years down the line, or 4 years, or 3 years, whatever the number of the time is. Yet we are not accounting many times for whatever savings we may have due to good bids. So that's okay, because that means we are conservative. And then if we have good news, we'll have good news. It's better to share good news than later on to tell you that we are wrong.
I guess we'll see.
Yes, absolutely.
I would just like to comment. The comments that the IEC have made are not future cost issues. They're issues based on current estimates. New York City Transit estimate, for example, that's a real number. That's a budget they're establishing for the work, and therefore it's a variance to the project today. And therefore it's not a future item, it's a variance today.
I'm not going to comment on that. We'll move on.
If I may, on the schedule, I just wanted to state that we agree with the IEC on the identification of some of the risks that we have to schedule. They are ongoing schedule risks that we're aggressively working on with mitigation plans to mitigate the delay. Of course, as we report schedule contingency, we have to keep in mind that this was really a report based on the end of the first quarter as of March 30th. That's the data date for schedule contingency. So some of the things that are risks that we're currently working on since the beginning of April, and will continue to work on. So in our next report, we'll know where we stand as far as those risks and what impact and to what degree they've impacted our contingency.
Schedule contingency, right? Schedule, right? Okay.
I'm going to suggest we move on to East Side Access.
Let me take a deep breath here. As you well know, and I've been here before, East Side Access is an extremely complex project with significant budget and schedule challenges that we are carefully and deliberately managing. Some of the things that I can actually call upon is the fact that The eighth and final drive in Manhattan is at this point about to be completed. We have about 970 feet to go to actually finish the tunnel, and then another 170 feet to bury the TBM. So at that point, we'll be done with the last tunnel and the mining in Manhattan, the TBM mining, I mean. The other things that we should be actually looking at is the fact that in Queens, the yard lead tunnel is about to be started. We expect to start it between now and sometime the first week in May, and we expect to then about a month after that to start the second tunnel, the A tunnel. So these are soft ground tunnels that have not been done before in New York with this type of machines, and we are kind of looking at it carefully, and we want to make sure that we're going to be able to advance properly. Regarding the 90-day look ahead, the plaza structure, what we refer to as the CQ32 contract, we received an excellent bid from Plaza Construction that was $53 million below budget, 147 vis-a-vis 200 that we had. And this contract was delayed in bidding it out because it was competing with another bid for bridges and tunnels. So we are actually approached by contractors requesting that we delay, and it turns out that both B&T as well we got good bids. They got a bid also about $70 million below their engineer estimate. So it seemed to be the case now that contractors are asking for delays in the dates that the bids need to be, and they ask in mass. So many times it helps reduce the risk because they have more time to look at stuff. One would have expected them to be a little more eager to bid, but they actually all asking for delays these days. Let me move on to actually the cost and schedule performance. And I would like to start by saying that we have seen, in terms of the construction and the total, in terms of the actual cost that we have, money we paid contractor, a reduction in the last quarter of about $149 million. That this is very worrisome when we started to look at. And we try to understand what happened. What we have in the process been able to determine is that the drop in construction expenditures was largely a result of a contract not awarded, as well as contracts awarded late. That amounted to about $114 million. And the reason for that has been actually driven by the fact that we had to look at the project and rearrange, reschedule the way we are advancing contracts in order to maintain the critical path. In doing that, some contracts were actually moved to the side, allowing other contracts to go forward. And I would say that half of this thing, of the money that we see there, was strategic deferral in order to advance the critical path activities. The other half has to do with contracts that were late in being awarded. So when you award a contract later, when we plan, the expenditures go back to 2009. So when we push a contract out for a reason, and normally I'll give you an example, it's a big contract that happened, that delays our expenditures, construction expenditure. The tunneling job in Queens, the CQ31, that is over $700 million, was delayed by 2.5 months because of a bid protest by the second bidder. So we had to go through that. Although we did it all on time, we had to delay 2.5 months the start of the project. Therefore, all of the expenditures gets actually pushed. Our plan stays planned, and the rest gets pushed out. So that's an example of things they do happen. The other thing has to do with delays in contract construction on ongoing contracts, and we have $34 million right there. And this is a combination of a number of contracts, including the contract, I call it CQ39, that this is the tunnel, the 120-feet tunnel under the Northern Boulevard, and that is right now, we have delays there. They are not on critical path, but there are delays. And there's a combination of reasons, many of them having to do with the slurry wall that was left behind by piles that was defective, and that delays the advance of the contractor. What we're looking for in the future for the next, we did a projection to see what we expect to have in terms of expenditures in the next quarter and the quarter after that, and we expect to increase our expenditures from this quarter that were $116 million to $170 million for the next quarter, and then $214 million for quarter after that. So we expect that tempo to pick up.
Michael?
Yes.
We are already a few minutes behind. If you could pick up the pace,
okay,
that will be helpful.
We'll pick the pace. The next one is cost and schedule. We have right now, in terms of schedule contingency, we are acknowledging a potential reduction of 20 days in addition to what we had before, due to system delays, that the system contract may eventually end up delaying us. We are now doing a lot of work in order to really determine if that's the case. Yet we have decided to take 20 days in additional delay at this point, and actually wait for the time we're going to complete our 4D analysis for the systems contract to be able to come up with mitigation measures. We have done already mitigations, taking down the delays somewhat, but we still have a long way to go. Regarding the cost contingency, again, here we have actually reduced some of the we taken some contingency down. We decreased by $29 million from last report, and that in effect does not account for the fact that we have a $53 million plus that we have not yet utilized because we have yet to award the contract. So in terms of contingency, we are, I think, for the moment, in a good spot. Let me go over the critical milestones quickly. The concrete operation in Manhattan Caverns has, in effect, on the it started both on the west-bound cavern already, and is moving forward, and will be starting on the eastbound in effect about now. And we met with the contractors, and that is moving forward. I'm looking at the railroad resources at Harold, and here we have risks that still need to be resolved. We have issues right now with the electric attraction workers. There is right now, these are Amtrak employees primarily. There was an arbitration decision that may, in effect, give them the right to do work that today we're doing. We are working with Amtrak right now to kind of clarify that. That is a potential delay to us because they don't have the necessary resources. On the positive side, They are actually training right now a new class, and they promise us 8 ET personnel that will work on our project, and that's a very positive thing. There was a issue regarding Tunnel A, regarding the safe haven for the Tunnel A, and that was mitigated. We found a temporary pit location, and you will not that this particular risk will disappear from the risk register next time around. Again, Northern Boulevard crossing. This is the ground freezing is a very technically complex issue, and at this point, the contractor has added a third shift. They're working there, but unfortunately, one of the things that we have as a problem there, this is a linear operation. You cannot work from 3 different spots. You have to work one after another. If something delays, everyone else get delays behind it. So at this point, whatever schedule delays we have, I am not sure that we'll be in a position to mitigate them. And they're all not on the critical path. The system contracts is the one that we took down some time for it. Failure to mitigate will consume schedule contingency and possibly delay the September 2016 revenue service. So we're taking it very seriously. The 4D model is actually looking at in 3D at all of the components, the 4D being time. And the idea is for us to be able to see the intersect of the various conflicts so we can then move them around to be able to solve them. We have finished the 4D for Manhattan. We're working with the IEC. The IEC actually requested us to go to Queens as well to put it in all in one package. And we have done risk analysis, and we're doing that, and we expect that to be that we'll be able to address all these issues, hopefully in a positive way, and it's something that remains to be seen. I am not at this point knowledgeable enough to be able to tell you that we're going to go one way or another. The GCT concourse finishes, okay. This is in effect critical path work. We repackage it as a discrete piece of work, and is being advanced this year as a separate contract. We have done that in order to comply with what our constraints right now, that part of our budgets are coming in 2012, 13, 14, and in order to advance the work, instead of putting a huge package out, we actually cut it out and put this one first, and then when the money will be allocated to us, we'll go to the second package. The 55th Street vent design is complete, and then we expect to go out to bid. That's it.
Okay. All right. I think I'm going to make it equally brief as Michael. As seen in the documents that we distributed earlier and on the slide, there is a difference of opinion between the MTACC and the IEC with regard to the amount of float left in the project, and also the pressure on the revenue service date. In addition, there are new risks, specifically resources in Herald, and significant mitigations have not been realized to date. Going forward, and since this difference of opinion are now around for quite some time, we will work with MTACC to settle this, or settle the differences, and then if this fails, we will have come back in July to the board, and I think then we would have to present the differences to you. On the budget does not appear to be critical at this time, but we would like to mention a serious new risk associated with Herald Force account costs. On the critical issues, we are equally concerned about the drop in the planned in the expenditures planned versus actual. MTACC has given us some explanation, but we will do our own investigation and see what can be recovered here. As a first step, we will ask MTACC to provide us with monthly rather than quarterly numbers. And I think that goes without saying that we will be back to report on that in July. Thank you.
Doreen used the word sobering before. She may have used it a little early in our discussion. I think we've clearly at this committee each month been discussing the issues with East Side Access. So that I don't think there are things here that surprise us in that. I think the difficulty here is that achievement of this project to the budget and the schedule that we have clearly requires mitigation against some of the issues that are there right now. Whether we find that time element in some of the digging projects that we have, or we find that element in other parts of the project from now until 2016, we need to find those mitigations if we're going to be on the schedule and the budget that we have. And that's the work. I think Michael and his team have found some of that. We haven't yet found enough of that. And we need to. And I think that has to be our focus in the way that we're looking at what is here as well. I met with Michael, I guess a week ago, with the president of Dragados, who is one of the prime contractors on this work, and we spoke very much in that vein. He continues to pledge his very strong support to the project. He describes the MTA as a critically important client to them. I appreciate that, but our discussion was very much around finding paths of mitigation to be able to deal with this, because where we are sitting now and hearing reports like we've heard, both Michael's report and the reports from the independent engineer, are not an acceptable place for us to be. And having said that, we are in 2011. And there is still time to figure things out about the way that we will finish this work and be able to do that. But we're clearly in a hole.
Just wanted to add one thing that I forgot to say, that at the end of this year, we'll have 72% of the money committed to contracts. So what we have left will be, about 25% of the 27%, actually. So a lot of the contracts will be awarded, so we at least have more definitive cost by the end of this year on a larger piece of the puzzle, so to speak.
I don't think any of us underestimated the complexity of this project. Any of us who've gone down, we've all gone down and visited it and seen it. When you go through the schedules, when you think about the number of moving parts, this sort of idea of shouldn't it be easy to get the railway from here to there, knowing that we already have the river under the tunnel, belies the tunnel under the river, right? Thank you. Belies the complexity of this effort, and I think that quite fairly that is clearly what the project team is dealing with. Whether it's on the Manhattan side, in which we're dealing with the constraints of digging this tunnel underneath the terminal and underneath some of the most valuable real estate in the world, or whether it's on the eastern end of this, where we're looking at how we do this without affecting the railway operations, both of Long Island Railroad, but also Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. This is an amazingly complex project to juggle those pieces up. But that's what we signed up to do, and that's what we have to succeed at doing. I don't think we're in a position where we can say, gee, it's hard, and so therefore we do it. We went into it knowing it was hard, and we have to deliver against that. I'm happy to take any further comments to the extent that Mr. Sidor will allow me, since he has the next meeting. For the project or for the meetings? I'd rather him get us back on schedule for the project, if you gave me the choice. Okay. Can I then have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. And
See you on Wednesday.